You know what terrifies a species that has conquered 600 star systems? What makes a civilization that's existed for 12 million years break into a cold sweat? It's not black holes. It's not quantum singularities. It's not even the heat death of the universe. No, my friends. It's a single solitary human with a very particular set of skills and an absolutely monumental grudge. I witnessed it firsthand, and let me tell you, I haven't slept properly in 3 cycles, so buckle up, because this is the story of how one woman turned the entire Valtheron Collective into the galaxy's most expensive apology tour. The first time I saw Commander Reyna Kade, she was unconscious, strapped to a medical slab in holding Bay 7, and I genuinely believed the universe had delivered us an easy target. Spoiler alert, I was catastrophically, spectacularly, monumentally wrong. My name is Qrix, Senior Intelligence Officer for the Valtheron Collective, and if you're wondering why I'm narrating this disaster like some kind of cosmic comedy special, it's because the alternative is screaming into the void until my vocal cords disintegrate. Humor is the only coping mechanism I have left after what happened. Let me set the scene for you. The Valtheron Collective, that's us, had been the dominant power in the Endros sector for longer than most species have had written language. We're talking advanced technology, diplomatic immunity across 70% of known space, and enough firepower to glass a planet before breakfast. We were, in our not-so-humble opinion, untouchable. Then we made the mistake, the big one, the kind that gets written about in cautionary tales for the next 1,000 years. We captured a human. Now I know what you're thinking. One human? So what? Well, let me educate you about humans, because apparently our entire intelligence division needed a refresher course. Humans are what we call a Category 7 Death World species. Their planet Earth is basically a nightmare sphere of carnivorous plants, venomous everything, weather systems that could kill you 6 different ways, and predators that hunt for sport. Humans didn't crawl to the top of their food chain, they clawed, bit, and probably trash-talked their way there. But here's the thing. We knew all that. We had the files. We had the warnings. We even had a very strongly worded memo from the Galactic Council that essentially said, leave humans alone or accept full responsibility for whatever happens next. Did we listen? Of course not. We're the Valtheron Collective. We bow to no one. Commander Kade's ship had been a small research vessel, probably surveying the Nexus belt for mineral deposits, or whatever it is humans do when they're not being terrifying. Our patrol fleet intercepted them, ran the standard intimidation protocols, and demanded their cargo, standard piracy procedure. Quick, clean, profitable. Except Kade didn't surrender. She sent back a 2-word response that roughly translates to an atomically improbable suggestion involving our maternal figures and a supernova. Then she opened fire. One small research vessel against a Valtheron patrol fleet. She destroyed 3 of our fighters before we even understood what was happening. Her weapons weren't particularly advanced, but her piloting, let me tell you, I've seen combat recordings from every major conflict in the last millennium, and I have never, ever seen anyone fly like that. She turned physics into a suggestion. She made our tactical computers weep. Binary tears. One of our pilots actually ejected just because he couldn't handle the humiliation. Eventually we overwhelmed her through sheer numbers. Her ship took a critical hit, life support failed, and she went down. We boarded, found her unconscious but alive, and brought her to Outpost Talon 9 for interrogation. That's where I came in. I remember walking into holding Bay 7 with what I thought was appropriate caution. 2 guards, both wearing full combat armor. Energy restraints on her wrists and ankles. Neural dampeners to prevent any augmented abilities. We'd done this hundreds of times with hundreds of species. She was still out cold when I arrived. Human female. Approximately 30 cycles by their reckoning. Dark hair pulled back in what their species calls a ponytail, multiple scars visible on her exposed arms. The kind that come from real combat, not simulation training. Her uniform bore the insignia of something called the Terran Exploration Corps, which sounded adorably harmless. I pulled up my datapad and started reviewing her file. Reyna Kade. 7 years of military service before joining the Exploration Corps. Combat citations, lots of them. A personality profile that used words like aggressive, uncompromising, and my personal favorite, dangerously creative under pressure. That last one should have sent me running. Wake her up, I told the guards. They administered the counter-agent, and I watched her eyes flutter open. They were an unusual shade of green, the color of Earth vegetation according to our databases. Those eyes focused on me with an intensity that made my dorsal ridge prickle. Good cycle, Commander Kade, I said pleasantly, using my translator implant. I am Senior Intelligence Officer Qrix of the Valtheron Collective. I have some questions for you. She looked at me, then at the guards, then at her restraints, then back at me. You have got to be kidding me, she said. Her translator was working fine, carrying that distinctly human inflection I'd heard described as sarcasm. You attacked a science vessel, killed my crew, and now you want to chat. Did you skip the villain training course on proper etiquette? I blinked. Several times. Your crew is not dead. They are being held in separate facilities. Oh, well, that makes me feel so much better. Thanks for the clarification. She rattled her restraints. These are cute. Do they come in other colors? Or is oppressive gray your whole aesthetic? One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. I'd been doing interrogations for 20 cycles, and I'd never had a prisoner mock their own captivity within 30 seconds of regaining consciousness. You destroyed 3 Valtheron fighters, I said, trying to regain control of the conversation. That is an act of war. You fired first, she shot back immediately. That's also an act of war. I'm just better at it. You are in no position to be difficult. She actually laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh or a frightened laugh. It was the laugh of someone who found the entire situation genuinely amusing. Officer Qrix, let me explain something about humans. We're not great at a lot of things. Our mathematics is pedestrian. Our poetry is derivative. Our cuisine involves things that would horrify most species. But you know what we excel at? She leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed. Spite. We are Olympic level, championship tier spiteful. You think these restraints bother me? You think your intimidation tactics work? I once spent 6 weeks in a damaged shuttle, with no heat, limited oxygen, and nothing but recycled protein paste to eat. I made it home out of pure stubbornness and the desire to file a really angry complaint with my supply officer. I felt my confidence eroding like a coastline during a tsunami. We will extract the information we need, I said, trying to sound threatening. Your cooperation is optional. Good luck with that, she said cheerfully. Human brains are weird. Neural probes give us headaches, and then we get cranky. You don't want to see me cranky. You are already a prisoner. How much worse could it get? Her smile would haunt me for the rest of my natural life. Oh, Qrix, she said, and the way she said my name made my survival instincts scream. You really should have read the rest of that file. Before I could respond, the lights in holding bay 7 flickered, then died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. What's happening? I demanded. One of the guards checked his wrist display. Sir, we're experiencing a station-wide power fluctuation. Multiple systems are failing. It's not a standard malfunction. I looked at Kade. She was still smiling. That's impossible, I said. You've been unconscious. You couldn't have done anything. True, she agreed. But you know what I did do before your goons blasted my ship? I programmed a little surprise into my ship's computer core. A very special virus. The kind that activates when certain conditions are met. Like, say, when my biometrics indicate I've been taken prisoner. My blood ran cold. Well, colder than usual. I'm a Valtheron. Our blood is naturally chilly. You're bluffing. Am I? Let's see. Your power grid should be failing about now. Check. Your communications array should be offline. Your weapon systems should be locked in maintenance mode. Your escape pods should be sealed. And oh yeah, your internal sensors should be feeding you completely false data about where your ships are positioned. Every single thing she said matched the reports now flooding my datapad. Guards, increase restraint power, I ordered. They tried. The controls didn't respond. Did I mention, Kade said, conversationally, that the virus specifically targets restraint systems? Because it does. Her energy cuff sparked once, twice, then deactivated completely. She stood up slowly, rolling her shoulders. You know what the real kicker is, Qrix? I didn't even need to escape. My people know exactly where I am. They've been tracking my implant since you grabbed me. They're probably already on their way. But you made me angry. You killed good people on my ship. You thought you could intimidate a human. She walked toward me. The guards raised their weapons, but she moved fast. Inhumanly fast. Some kind of combat augmentation I hadn't anticipated. She disarmed both of them in seconds. Not killing them, just leaving them dazed and confused on the floor. So here's what's going to happen, she said, standing directly in front of me now. I'm going to take control of this station. I'm going to free every single prisoner you're holding. I'm going to download every bit of intelligence you have, and then I'm going to make sure the Galactic Council knows exactly what the Valtheron Collective does to innocent ships. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But I was also professional enough to ask the important question. Why tell me all this? She paused at the door. Because I want you to spread the word. Tell every pirate, every slaver, every 2-bit collective in this sector. Tell them what happens when you mess with humans. Tell them about the woman who turned your flagship outpost into her personal playground. Tell them, she grinned that terrible grin again. Tell them I'm just getting started. Then she was gone, and the real nightmare began. So there I was, standing in a powerless holding bay with 2 unconscious guards and the rapidly dawning realization that my entire career was about to become a cautionary tale. The kind of story parents tell their spawn to make them behave. Finish your nutrient paste, or Commander Kade will get you. I grabbed my datapad, which was miraculously still functioning on backup power, and tried to contact command. Static. Beautiful, terrifying static. Kade's virus had done exactly what she promised. We were blind, deaf, and about as threatening as a newborn Flixian slug. The emergency lighting flickered, casting shadows that seemed to move with malicious intent. Somewhere in the distance, I heard an explosion, then another, then what sounded suspiciously like someone whooping with joy. That would be Kade. I did what any sensible intelligence officer would do in this situation. The corridors of Outpost Talon 9 were designed to be imposing, all dark metal and sharp angles that screamed military intimidation. Right now they just felt like a maze with a very angry human somewhere inside it. I passed 3 separate security teams, all scrambling to understand what was happening. Their weapons were offline. Their communications were dead. Their training had prepared them for invasions, boarding parties, and coordinated attacks. Nobody had prepared them for one human woman, with a grudge and apparently unlimited spite. I made it to the command center, which was in only slightly less chaos than everywhere else. Admiral Qrix stood at the main console, his scales flushed that particular shade of purple that indicated extreme stress. Around him, officers frantically tried to restore systems while failing spectacularly. Qrix growled when he saw me. Tell me you have good news. Define good, I said. Because if good means our prisoner is loose, has disabled most of our systems, and is currently turning our station into her personal vendetta playground, then yes, fantastic news. Qrix's eye stalks wilted. How is this possible? She was restrained, unconscious, one being against an entire military installation. She's human, I said, as if that explained everything, which honestly it did. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered again. On one of the few working monitors, I caught a glimpse of holding bay 12. The door was blown open. Prisoners, dozens of them, were streaming out, and there, in the center of it all, directing traffic like some kind of liberation conductor, was Kade. She's freeing the prisoners, an officer reported unnecessarily. I can see that, Qrix snapped. Someone tell me we have a containment protocol for this scenario. Silence. Awkward, terrible silence. Let me guess, I said. Our containment protocols assume the prisoners are still contained. More silence. Brilliant, I muttered. Absolutely brilliant strategic planning. On another monitor, I watched Kade arm a group of freed prisoners with weapons she'd somehow acquired. They weren't attacking randomly, though. No. She had them moving with military precision, securing corridors, establishing defensive positions. She was treating this like an actual tactical operation. Because of course she was. Deploy the assault drones. Qrix ordered. Sir, the assault drones are controlled by the main computer, an officer said timidly. Which is compromised by her virus, I finished. Those drones are about as useful as decorative sculptures right now. Qrix turned to me, desperation creeping into his voice. You interrogated her? You spoke with her? What does she want? What did she want? I thought back to that conversation, her casual confidence, the way she'd smiled when she told me she was just getting started. She wants us to hurt, I said quietly. She wants us to understand what we did. And she wants everyone else to know that humans are not to be trifled with. We are the Valtheron Collective, Qrix said, his voice rising. We do not negotiate with prisoners. We do not surrender to inferior species. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Admiral, with all due respect, have you actually reviewed the human threat assessment files? Because I did right before this all went sideways. Their planet is so hostile that giving birth is potentially lethal. They evolved persistence hunting, which means they literally chase prey until it dies of exhaustion. They have a documented history of solving problems by either befriending them or punching them repeatedly. Their cultural entertainment involves watching simulated violence for fun. They sent robots to other planets before they achieved faster-than-light travel just to prove they could. Another explosion interrupted my monologue. This one sounded closer. What are you suggesting? Qrix asked. I'm suggesting that maybe, just maybe, we took the wrong human. As if summoned by my words, every working screen in the command center suddenly displayed the same image. Kade's face, looking remarkably composed for someone who'd just orchestrated a prison break. Hello, Valtheron Command Staff, she said pleasantly. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Oh wait, I am. I'm interrupting your entire operational capacity. Qrix stepped forward. Commander Kade, you have violated numerous galactic treaties. Surrender immediately, and we will discuss terms. She laughed. That same terrifying laugh from the holding bay. Admiral, I'm going to stop you right there. See, I've spent the last hour accessing your databases. Very interesting reading material, by the way. Did you know you've been conducting raids in neutral space for the past 6 cycles, or that you've got 23 ships from 12 different species locked up in your impound bays? Or my personal favorite, that you've been selling prisoners to the Crithian slave markets? The color drained from Qrix's face. Well, his scales turned a lighter shade of purple, which is basically the same thing. Those are classified operations, he stammered. Were classified, Kade corrected. Past tense. Because I just transmitted every single file to the Galactic Council, the Terran Embassy, and about 40 different news networks. Your classified operations are about to become very public operations. I felt my legs go weak. You didn't. Oh, I absolutely did. But wait, there's more. She was clearly enjoying this. I've also taken control of your automated distress beacon. It's currently broadcasting on all frequencies that Outpost Talon 9 is experiencing critical systems failure and requesting immediate assistance. Every ship, military or civilian, within 3 sectors is going to see that signal. Some of them might even come to help. Wouldn't that be awkward when they find out what you've been doing? What do you want? Qrix demanded. Kade's expression turned serious. I want my crew, all of them, alive and unharmed. I want every prisoner on this station released with their ships and cargo returned. I want full reparations for the damages you've caused. And I want a formal apology issued to the Terran government. Impossible, Qrix said. We will not bow to terrorist demands. Terrorist. Kade raised an eyebrow. Admiral, you attacked my ship unprovoked. You imprisoned innocent people. You've been running an illegal operation for years. I'm not the terrorist in this scenario. I'm just really, really good at payback. Another series of explosions. Closer now. The command center shook. What was that? An officer shouted. Kade smiled. Oh, that. I may have programmed your remaining functional weapon systems to target your own shield generators. They should be completely offline in about 90 seconds. After that, this station is going to be extremely vulnerable to, say, an incoming rescue fleet. There is no rescue fleet, Qrix said, but his voice wavered. You sure about that? Because human ships are really good at hiding from sensors, especially when those sensors are being fed false data by a very clever virus. How long do you think it would take a Terran battle group to get here if they knew one of their people was in trouble? I'll give you a hint. They've been in weapons range for the last 20 minutes. Every officer in the command center suddenly became very interested in their consoles. You're bluffing, Qrix said, but he didn't sound convinced anymore. Want to test that theory? Kade asked. Because I've got nothing but time and spite, Admiral. Those are the only two resources I need. I stepped forward before Qrix could make things worse. Commander Kade, if we agree to your terms, you'll stand down. She looked at me, and for a moment I saw past the bravado to the grief underneath. You killed 8 people on my ship, Qrix. 8 good people who were just doing their jobs. Scientists. Explorers. My friend Marcus was 2 weeks from retirement. He had grandchildren waiting for him. Engineer Petrov was getting married next month. Communications officer Talbot sent his mother a message every single day, and now she's going to wonder why they stopped. The command center fell silent. So no, she continued, her voice hard. I won't stand down, but if you release everyone, if you make this right, I'll make sure the Galactic Council knows you cooperated. I'll testify that you attempted to rectify your mistakes. I'll do everything I can to ensure the consequences are legal, rather than violent. And if we refuse, Qrix asked, then those human warships I mentioned, the ones that are definitely not lurking just outside your sensor range, might decide to exercise their right to rescue a captured citizen. And Admiral, I promise you, they won't be as polite as me. A junior officer suddenly spoke up. Sir, I'm detecting multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're broadcasting Terran military codes. I count 6 heavy cruisers and a carrier group. Qrix looked like he wanted to molt right out of his scales. How long were they waiting? He asked weakly. Probably since you grabbed me, Kade said cheerfully. Humans are patient when we need to be. We were just waiting for me to gather all this lovely evidence and spring everyone loose. 2 objectives with 1 operation. Efficiency. I watched Qrix's military career crumble in real time. It would have been satisfying if I wasn't also facing the same fate. Stand down all remaining forces, Qrix said quietly. Release the prisoners. Prepare full documentation of their belongings. And someone get me a direct line to the Galactic Council before this gets worse. Smart choice, Kade said. Oh, and Admiral, tell your people to be nice to my crew, because if anyone has so much as a bruise, I'm going to get creative. And trust me, you really don't want to see what human creativity looks like when we're motivated. The screens went dark. 3 hours later, I stood in the main hangar bay, watching the last of the freed prisoners board their ships. Kade was there too, supervising the process with the same military precision she'd used for everything else. Her crew, all alive and looking remarkably healthy considering the circumstances, stood beside her. The Terran battle group had sent representatives. They were very professional, very polite, very clearly ready to level the entire station if things went sideways. I approached Kade one last time. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about your crew. The ones who didn't make it. She looked at me, and some of the hardness faded. You know what the worst part is, Qrix? You seem like a decent person. You're just working for terrible people doing terrible things. Most evil in the universe isn't dramatic. It's not monsters and villains. It's ordinary people making bad choices because it's easier than making good ones. What happens now? I asked. Now, your government issues formal apologies, pays reparations, and probably replaces most of your command structure. The Galactic Council investigates your operations. A lot of people face trial, and the universe learns a valuable lesson. Which is, she smiled, but this time it wasn't terrifying. Just tired. Don't mess with humans. We're small, we're soft, we're not the fastest or strongest or smartest, but we're stubborn, we're creative, and we never ever forget. She walked toward her ship, then paused. Oh, and Qrix, get a new job. You're too smart to waste your life working for pirates. I watched her leave, watched the Terran fleet escort the freed ships away, watched everything we'd built collapse under the weight of our own mistakes. 3 cycles later, I submitted my resignation. 6 cycles after that, I was working for the Galactic Council's Ethics Compliance Division. Turns out there's high demand for people who've seen what happens when you cross humans. I still don't sleep well, but every time I brief a new species on human protocols, I tell them about Commander Reyna Kade, the woman who took down an entire military outpost with nothing but spite, clever programming, and the absolute certainty that the universe would bend before she did. They usually think I'm exaggerating. I wish I was, but I'm not. Because humans don't quit. They don't surrender. They just get creative. And that, my friends, is why you should never ever give them a reason to get angry. Trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way.